Hello, class. It is week 11, and I want to check in with you to give you a briefing on your independent projects and to help you with your next steps and outline what we should be doing next, and also go through another case study to help give you examples of the way to be building up your brand and how to be creating your presentation. With a little bit of focus on creating strategy pages and mood boards, and then supporting those strategy statements and mood boards with logo concepts and making those connections. I feel it's going to be important that we really focus on this at this point and make that a solid part of your final presentation, because making your concept make sense, making your brand have a certain set of values, and clearly outlining what those values are, and then connecting those values to the concept of your design, and showing how those values can be expressed in a visual way through design inspiration visuals, and then realizing those within your logo concepts will be key in getting the person you're presenting to understand and sign on to your concept, and to give your concept deep value that will be able to be part of the brand's life and be able to set the tone for everything that gets designed in the future of the brand. So let's start by thinking about what are our next steps in terms of where you're at. We are at a point now where everyone is sort of at the same phase, but each independent project is kind of uniquely different. Different causes obviously lead to different concepts that have very specific applications. So at this point, we are all kind of doing the same thing, but if your approach or the way you set up your presentation or the way you're making your design overall is slightly different than someone else's, that's okay, because I think it becomes now is when the idea of independence comes in. So I will show you another case study just to show another way that you can present this kind of thing. So there isn't really a right or wrong way, but the key is that you do think about what is the best way for you, and that you don't simply rely on showing designs or sort of defending those designs just based on your personal opinion. It has to be bigger than that. So we're going to work on revising your logo designs. We went through our team meetings yesterday, and everyone had made good progress. And it's really about beginning to focus in on some of the ideas that were working best, and refining those and developing those further. There's still time for new breakthroughs to happen, for ideas that weren't considered, have room for that to happen as well. Being a little uncertain, not sure exactly what you want to do, that's okay. But see that thinking through, and follow the steps in terms of making sure that you have a strong strategy statement, that you have the foundation, the values clearly laid out and set up. Make sure those values are connected to what your concept is. Write out how your concept connects to the values of the brand. If there's a specific focus on some key values, point that out. If there's like 12 values and you point out 3 and make that the foundation for your concept, show that, and then show 2 kinds of mood boards is the ideal. And again, this could change for everyone. It's not necessarily in stone, but ideally it's the one mood board is about showing your logo's concept and the look and feel of that in general, kind of a visual mood board that shows ideas that aren't necessarily graphic. They're more in terms of showing the spirit of your idea. And then show a mood board that is more tactical, and that shows design inspiration, shows different ways the values you're trying to show can be brought out through graphic techniques. And look for good examples, like go to places like designspiration.net and look for these curated sites that showcase celebrated graphic design, contemporary graphic design, or classic graphic design, and look for ideas that are at the high end and really push the boundaries and are at the highly refined ways of using typography or letter forms or color or overall strokes and form. Make those inspirational and make sure they connect. And if they don't connect, go back to them and update them so that you can point to certain techniques, certain ways of approaching design that will then be reflected in your solution. And I'll show you a good part of that in the upcoming case study. And then the next step is sort of planning ahead. And if some of you are further ahead than others, this is something you can start doing, but it's not necessarily part of this week, which is to begin thinking about creating just a small set of touch points. Maybe that could fit on one page in the same way that we did with our rebrand project, where you come up with a few pieces that are kind of the ideal pieces that that show how your logo could be applied within the real life environment in that kind of context. So doing a page that shows each of your logo concepts applied. So what you're trying to do for this week is refine your presentation, have a strong set of strategy pages and mood boards, and then showcase your 2 to 3 concepts and how those concepts become designs. And within those concepts, it could be at least one that you're proposing as a final, or it could be a couple, so that we then finalize that for sure by next week and move towards the touch points. And so the mock-up touch points are there for you to start to think about. If you are far enough along and confident that you have choices that are worth being finalists, and go ahead and do that, or we can work on that next week. And then the other thing to know for week 11 is that the workshop series is finished, and it's now just a matter of making sure that you're finished and making sure that you have completed the exercises, that you've posted on Miro for everything, as I'll be making those final grades by the end of the week. And anything that's not done by then will just be a 0. So please avoid getting zeros. And I don't like doing that. So make sure you have your work done. And if you don't, all you have to do is simply let me know, reach out with an email or Slack, or tell me when we're talking, and I can give you more time. But if you don't communicate, you get a 0. All right, so here's just a quick review. This will be posted on Canvas, but following your review sessions with your group and instructor, take the feedback and direction given and work on finalizing your logo concepts. Be sure that you are including pages that feature your brand's values and create a written statement describing each of your concepts, supporting them with a mood board that visualizes each of your logo concepts. This is something you should have already done, but I'm just saying that you want to go back and look at it and make sure it's well done and it's relevant to where you're going with your designs. Take the time to make this section strong, clear, and relevant to your logo designs. I want you to finalize a set of logo design options using your strongest ideas. For each of your 2 to 3 design concepts, create 2 to 3 logo design proposals. And then have that be so that when we meet on Monday, we can kind of talk about which are the finalists that you can then put touch points on for each of the concepts. So, and then again, like I said, look for touch point mock-up pieces that you can use next week to create your touch point pages, your preliminary ones. And then just a reminder to make sure that you are posting on Canvas. I'll put the link, or posting on Google Drive in the folders. I'll put the link on Canvas. But it's a reminder that I want everyone to have each of the pieces, each of the parts, from the finding a cause deck at the beginning to the research to the brand strategy to the logo design concept and now logo design finalization. I will be looking through these at the end of the assignment as one of the assessment tools to see if you've been able to comply with posting them and keeping track of your progress. So I just want to use that as, I want to remind you that that's going to be looked at. So don't overlook this. Okay, now I want to give you a quick case study on a project I've worked on just a couple of years ago. And this is a project that's in the barber industry. As you know, I've worked in this industry for a while with my work with American Crew. And this is another company that is actually a company called Wall. And what Wall is well known for is in making grooming clippers, these kind of like tools that you see here on the side, the kind of things that you use to get a buzz cut. And they're a company with kind of a long legacy. They were coming up on their 100th year in 2019 last year, and they were founded in 1919, and they had this sort of milestone that they were celebrating. And within that, they were also a successful company that had a great following with barbers in the barber community globally. And they were well known and renowned for the technology and the tools that they provided. But they wanted to expand their offering and create a line of men's grooming products, like styling products that supported the kind of haircuts that you get with a grooming clipper. And even this idea of redefining the word tool, so that a tool doesn't have to be just the scissors or the clipper, but the tool could also be the idea of the grooming product. So if Wall makes grooming tools, then making a line of men's grooming products, styling products, should fit in line with their vision. So they wanted to do this and brought me on and brought Toda on the team to help create this brand. And in creating this brand, it was about doing this project so that not only was it about the design of the brand, but it was also about naming it. Like, what's the concept? How does Wall as a company put together a line of grooming products that look relevant to who they are, competes well with the other highly successful grooming brands like American Crew that are out there currently, and how do they make that all a cohesive offering that makes sense to the professionals. So again, 100 years of leading salon professional men's grooming tools, and occupying a significant piece of this growing business. So Wall is already a well-established, well-known brand that has a loyal following. And their objectives was to create a profitable line of men's grooming products that can take advantage of men's desires to care for themselves and expand Wall's reach as a key authority of men's grooming in the US and around the world. So making this relevant grooming product that comes from the same sort of perspective of the grooming expert that Wall is, but being able to transfer that from being experts in cutting technology to experts in grooming technology or in grooming artistry. And another objective was that they wanted to kind of fold in this idea of the 100-year celebration of the Wall Clipper and use that sort of achievement as their kind of permission to go even further within what they offer the professional and be able to delve into this grooming category that lives within the barbershops, just like they do with their clippers. So like we've been talking, a lot of this has to do with strategy. Branding has a lot to do with like creating a game plan, creating a way of thinking, creating a language, creating a DNA that expresses what it is that a company seeks to do as a brand, and who they seek to speak to, what they want to do, what they want to achieve, and that this positioning statement, this idea of who they are, is the foundation for how to create the brand's design, but also is a roadmap to how the brand operates throughout the course of its life. So Wall Clipper is an authority of men's modern grooming. And for the last 100 years, they've demonstrated its leadership through men's grooming tools, their clippers and trimmers in the salon environment, professional environment. And who they've tried to reach are a target audience, or a target consumer, as we call it here. And like you guys have been doing with your brand, it's about kind of identifying an audience or a consumer in the specific way as possible, and trying to learn about what the attributes of the customers are in order to be able to reflect back the attributes of the brand so that they're congruent with what their customers are. So here we see that their customers they're men, 18 to 34 years old, ideally. They're kind of trendy guys. They're intelligent and educated. They're both urban and suburban. And for this specific customer, and maybe unlike typical men, grooming is an important part of life. So these are men who have the sort of the attitude and the aesthetic that choosing a higher end grooming product is important to them, rather than maybe relying on sort of the Axe kind of brand or the drugstore kind of brand that doesn't offer the same level of professional performance as what you would find at in a barbershop or a salon. And within the target demographic, it's really about using visuals to showcase who the person is, and to offer some kind of key talking points or some bullet points that show who their market is. And in this case, we showed 2 different pages. I'm not going to go through all the attributes, but I want to make sure that you guys are thinking about this in a deep way. I know some of you have target audience pages that are just kind of one simple statement and no visuals to support it. And I think that that's not going to serve you well. I think you need to really make sure you paint the picture of who you're talking to, spend the time in the early part of your presentation so that when you're expressing this to whoever you present to, whether it's the critique, whether it's the critique judge in a few or in next month, or whether it's a potential employer in several months from now, or a year from now, or over a year from now, that you are really talking in a way that makes a connection between the full picture of what you do as a communication designer. And then core values, we've talked about this, like each of you should have created this by now, but for sure, if you haven't, you need to do this, and you need to make sure your core values and that who you stand for as a brand are laid out. And it could be simple, it doesn't have to be complex. Here, there's just 4 key core values of being about premium, like high quality products that are worth paying for, and the idea of integrity, honesty, and fairness. It's kind of 3 in 1 there. Really expressing the idea of that Wall is an authority in men's grooming, and that they have kind of a responsibility with their legacy to provide only the finest level of service and technology and product. And then stewardship, kind of like this idea of being responsible for your industry, with their 100 years of ensuring men are provided the tools for great grooming from Wall. And then being innovators. The fact that Wall has been innovating different kinds of technologies with their clippers makes it only obvious that they would leap into the next evolutionary track and be able to now look at grooming products as a challenge that they could take on. Kind of the same as Apple going from computers to cameras, or going to listening devices, or to watches, like making that leap, or to telephones, into a new innovation. So that if anybody's able to do that, it should be Wall with 100 years of experience. And then part of setting up your brand also has to do with the idea of tone and language and personality. We've talked a lot about brand personality and creating kind of a tone, both in the way that you express it with words, but also in creating a tone using mood boards. And we don't really do that so much here with this section, but I want you guys to be doing that for sure in the early part of your brand. When you're explaining your brand in the beginning, before you get to the logo concepts, you should set up your audience, the tone of and personality of your brand, as well as seeing that in a visual way. So some brand communication positioning. What we're outlining here is that Wall will speak to its core customers with a layered approach. Our voice will be projected in writing, visuals, and verbal expression through multifaceted communication that simultaneously touches on 3 core principles. So some of the principles we're looking at here is the legacy of Wall and their 100 years of proven success, kind of touching on their heritage and being an ongoing driver, and having this tone that they take with their visuals and written and verbal communications, that they always speak in this sort of legacy voice. But at the same time, having that legacy, they also want to have a contemporary, modern approach and be kind of in the cool, hip, relevant, no need to rely on the past. We're here today and we're about the future. So creating trends, reflecting immediate needs of men, speaking to those needs to the professional and the customer alike. And then looking towards the future, being a visionary, projecting a voice and vision that demonstrates a commitment towards being an innovator in the industry, and like to seam together the values of their legacy, the actions of today with a view towards tomorrow. So kind of like the past, the present, and the future all put together as one creates a visionary tone. So with that kind of foundation, I want to move towards the idea, and this is sort of signifies separate meanings. So this is a different beginning of a different meaning, but I'm going to show you a set of 5 naming concepts for this new product line of men's grooming products for the barbershop. I want to show you names as well as package designs. So it's sort of for you guys, it kind of reflects the idea of a name for a brand, the reasons why, the mood boards, and then showing it in a touch point form. In this presentation, the touch point form will be like a line of products. But don't get confused with what you're doing, because what you're doing is more expansive. In this case, it's about specifically the packaging of this brand and the name and the strategy. So concept 1 is called 1919, and 1919 is the year that Walls first put out its first clipper. It's got its first patent and started its company. And it's sort of this nod towards their heritage and this, like, using this set of numbers. And it's sort of a short, easy way to say and remember a name, kind of hoping it could become kind of this code within the industry. 1919, it's got that repetition. It sounds good, even though it has an old 100-year-old date. It does have a feel of kind of being new and approachable. It signifies their market leadership. Still has this heritage, but can kind of become this iconic thing that for sure makes a nod towards their legacy. So the way we wanted to show this is we show the name, the concept of the name, and then we show the strategic positioning of that name, and we take the values that we've outlined here: heritage, premium quality, technical innovation, and stewardship. And we kind of we put a certain weight to different ones, and the larger circles signify that in this concept in 1919, we're kind of turning up the volume on heritage at the highest level, and also premium quality comes in there. Stewardship a little less, and in technical innovation, it's not so much about that. With this is more about legaciness. So this will be, it'll balance all 4 of the values, but with heritage and premium quality being emphasized the most. And then in order to give them a sense of how 1919 can come to life, here's where we utilize the idea of a mood board. And this mood board is designed to kind of combine both the mood board of the logo concept, the kind of look and feel of it, as well as the design inspiration, like tactical methodologies that can help show how we can take 1919 and help fulfill the values. So, and this is something I've been encouraging many to do, we do first pick very specific imagery and suffer through and look for the right things in order to, like, make the right message, and then we support them with these caption texts. So we're saying on the first one here that it's old and new combined. It's like classic type over edgy photo. So it's like the idea of bringing in photography in this direction. Like, can photography be utilized within the brand in a strong way, right? Even onto the packaging. Feature strong presence of archetypical men. So it's kind of the same idea, like have men be part of it. Down here, we're leveraging the founding date. So the way that Gap uses 1969 and one of their sub brands, it's the same idea. So we're kind of supporting this idea, verifying it as an idea that's been done before and is like a proven tactic. Down here, we have classically forward-looking type. So although the year 1919 could have an old look to it, an old look can still look new. And that's what we're saying here. And we're talking about also, can there be a graphic treatment, kind of like this Whitney Museum identity, where a simple line can represent a W, and can we get some value out of the brand wall and use W as a supporting graphic? And then here we talk about how we can make this also look modern through dark, rich colors and sharp detail by having this kind of like premium kind of application and having these high production values by using this dark, rich, sharp, detailed color. So when we paint this picture, then we're able to say 1919 will reflect the brand values and will have a focus on heritage and premiumness, and that 1919 then can be designed as a logo that looks like this, and not just the logo, but kind of this whole page represents sort of a branding approach where this is the logo, but then we bring in color, we bring in some graphic treatment and typography that could be utilized beyond just the quote unquote logo, which is like the number 1919. So for you guys, I think this is important as well. Like, I don't want you to necessarily clutter up your pages, but I want you to see this as more than just a logo study, that you're creating a palette of tools that involve patterns and typography, and to begin to think that way when you're designing your logo, because as we've talked about, the logo can only do so much, and you don't want to jam all those things within one. So here we allow the type to work in a simple way, because we know we have other techniques, and then we bring those techniques together in a packaging line, which we see here, and we bring in the idea of the photography that we had talked about. We talked about that in the mood boards, and so when it appears here, it's not a surprise. It's like something that we said we would use, kind of this dark, moody imagery of archetypical men, celebrating them, but keeping them kind of in the background, and that some of these elements, the graphic W, and then just showcasing the color palette that we just showed within the packaging system, and showing it a little more extended here. So that's the way that you go from a concept that's just simply a name, 1919, to then what the name stands for and what the focus is, and circled around their own values, having heritage be the main thing here, and then showing the mood boards that are kind of like the parts that will make up this concept. And then by the time you get to this concept, you have a thorough understanding of what's being done with all these subtle techniques. So concept 2 is the idea of the name tool. And tool is about kind of playing off the idea that Wall has been providing tools to barbers for 100 years, and the tool has been the technology of the clipper, and now that tool is being seen in a new way, and that a tool can be a grooming product. A tool can be a barber using a pomade or a styling gel or a fiber cream, and that tool is something that Wall now provides. So it's sort of like playing off the idea that they're still a provider of grooming tools, and that this is a new way of looking at it. So tool will balance the 4 Wall values with the primary focus on stewardship. You see stewardship is kind of the big circle here, but not much bigger than premium quality. So it's kind of like stewardship and premium quality are the stars here, and technical innovation is still part of it. And heritage in this iteration, or this concept, takes the back seat. And so this way, now that you're seeing this, you can see that each concept will be able to put different emphasis on different values, so that strategic position can then reflect a different kind of design, so that they can have a more targeted conversation about where they want this wet line to go, where they want this product line to go, not based on just what they think is their favorite because they like how it looks, or because they like the colors, or they like the letters, or no, but because they know that this idea tool now is more about the idea of premium quality and stewardship being the main value. So again, we use the same mood board, the same kind of mood board, the same sort of repeating the pattern, and sticking to 6 images. And in this one, again, the idea of extending the meaning of the groom tool, creating a modern, clean experience for the user. And again, some of these photographs are about setting the mood. Some of them are about showing design inspiration. So it's kind of like 2 out of 4 in this one. It's a nod to the classic through rich patterns. So we're setting up the idea that with this concept, we want to have some patterns, and utilizing simple letters as patterns, and simple element made into a dynamic expression, an organic feel through the colors, type, and materials. And so the logo by itself, we have this kind of unique lockup where we use the word wall, and we build the word tool almost to reflect like an object, like the letter forms of tool become almost tool inspired. And then here we showcase how we utilize that logo as a form to be able to use it as a pattern and implement colors and create this product line that reflects what you see in this mood board comes to life here in this iteration of the design. And here we see it further. And then the next concept is a idea of the name Sterling. And Sterling is actually the name of the town that this company is based on in Illinois. So we thought Sterling actually is a kind of a great name, not just for a little town in Illinois, but it kind of means excellence and exceptionalism, and has a kind of connection to the idea of silver and this high premiumness. And with Sterling, we thought there was an opportunity to kind of create an iconic S symbol, and maybe even also utilize the S symbol with by building it through a pattern of W's. So looking at typography. And with this one, we wanted to put at the front premium quality. So Sterling is the concept that strategically positions Wall's new product line as a premium product line, and makes that the main focus, with stewardship being pretty much equal, but premium sort of the main focus. Technical innovation and heritage is way back there. It's not in this one. It's not going to be about looking old fashioned at all. It's going to be about like just being new and contemporary. So we're giving another set of visuals to help support the concept, to help give an understanding, to create a language that will then support the design that we show next. So we have like this idea of a stripped down iconic expression using silver. So here we're assuring them, like, look, Coca-Cola does this kind of minimalist look that shows like uses silver in a premium way. And we can also reflect a future forward looking I can't say his name, Yoji Yakamoto. I butchered that, but you know who I'm talking about, this Y3 brand. Future forward look and attitude. So it's about really having a 21st century look and feel to the brand. And then it's unifying it with bold type and patterns. So the idea, we're really going to try to take this idea of patterns to tell a product story and implement that kind of patterning from top to bottom. And then we want to also use this idea of like how owning a letter, like let's own the letter S, like Google owns the letter G, like taking ownership of it. So we create the Sterling brand by utilizing a pattern of lines that are inspired by the letter form W, and the letter for W forms an S, and using the kind of this silvery, misty kind of color to create the brand for Sterling, and then applying it onto the product line and utilizing this really dynamic set of shapes that are kind of slightly barbershop influenced, right? There's a little bit of barbershopness to it, and there is definitely in the packaging forms, but taking this sort of barbershop feeling and bringing this kind of modern twist to it so that it has this like new 21st century look that can fit within the barbershop, but also be at the premium level. And there's a further expression of it. And then another concept is the idea of calling it roots. And roots is about really looking at the idea of what this word means. It's like roots means to be established deeply and firmly, like the roots of something. It's the source of hair. It's the fundamental or essential part of something. It's one's origin, like where you're from. So roots will be a nod to Wall's deep heritage and an homage to the American man. So it's kind of like roots is about like Wall is a company with deep roots, but the sort of Americana culture is also deeply rooted in the brand and in culture. So this rootedness can be seen as strategically positioned to focus back again to heritage. Now we're back to heritage as being the primary focus with roots. Stewardship kind of a second, premium quality, and then technology not being as important with this one. And again, we follow through with the same mood board structure that has a look and feel to the brand of a kind of a spirit of it, as well as specific graphic techniques. So we talk about from the source, built on the men's tradition, kind of being about the barbershop or connecting to generations of men. So this sort of father and son family idea. And then on the graphic inspiration, we want it to have this presence of being simple, strong, just simple type and color, and color palette wise, modern, rich, kind of crafty colors. So this line here sort of has a good feeling to it, but also not going too far into the classicalness, but also being kind of bold, with type that's like kind of tall trees that can be rooted, and then also reflecting a modern, clean look using simplicity. So Wall Roots utilizes this sort of underground idea and utilizes a certain kind of color palette and typography that comes together on this page and then comes together within the product line in this application. And then our last one is the concept that we're calling Edge. And Edge reflects Wall's long legacy of their Clipper innovation, and with the focus on Edge as a concept that reflects kind of the idea of the metaphor of the blade that's on the end of the clipper, and it's got that sharp edge, and kind of being making a connection to their actual tool, and seeing that edge is where the cutting happens, and the edge is where you live life at its best. So sort of taking two ways of saying or of seeing the word edge. It evokes the heritage, it evokes this kind of edginess to the American values, and taking the barbering and kind of giving it a little bit of a modern twist. And also we like the idea that if you say wall edge together, wall edge, it kind of like almost evokes like a new word for the word knowledge. Maybe it could be used in their education, like gain some wallage. Maybe that's corny, but I thought that was a little bit interesting. So here, maybe this is kind of being a little more on the balance side. Technical innovation kind of comes to the front. Heritage is there too. So that's kind of interesting that we're able to bring together sort of the two opposites, high-end technology with heritage, and still having premium quality high up there and stewardship high up there. So this is pretty balanced in terms of where we're positioning this. And in the mood board, you can kind of see here that we showcase this idea of the blade, like literally seeing this as a symbol, as something we can kind of take ownership of, seeing how symbols for other brands, simple symbols, like there's almost a connection there between the Levi's thing and the clipper, and how that could both have an old and new feel, like it does in this overall graphic, in this photograph. The idea that Wall already has this kind of like look and feel. They utilize these kind of 5 stars, and so there's already kind of a sharpness to their look and feel, reflecting the American attitude, kind of this long-standing edginess that we have, being premium with like these kind of silver embossed kind of applications, and also the stripes that are part of the American symbol for both the country and the barbershop. So wall edge literally looks like this with a clipper, being very recognizable, with their name being big. And then within the product line, having it have some of these Americana, the 5 stars of Wall, the stripes of the American flag in the barbershop, but then pulling them back by utilizing silver and keeping it in this more premium feel, focusing on their heritage with the 1919 date here, and overall giving it this feeling that is edgy, both in kind of spirit and in how it's perceived overall. And then showcasing the end with a set of the options all together, so that it provided like a good and spirited conversation. And just FYI, this is the one that they picked. And maybe I'll show you how we furthered it next time, as it's out there now, and looks like it's doing pretty well. At least it looks like that on Instagram. All right, so keep those techniques in mind. Again, remember that everyone is doing their independent project in a way that suits them best. So I want you to be able to kind of take how you want to communicate your project and design it and set it up in the way that you think is best, but that it must be thorough. It must cover all these levels of communication that I've been showing. So tomorrow is now November 4th. Sorry, I forgot to change the date. But tomorrow we will have the same schedule, and we will have 10-minute meetings. So be sure you're on time, and we can check in and talk about your progress and try to finalize some things. If you made some progress over the past 2 days, let's be ready to show that. If you're stuck and lost and afraid, then we can talk and get you out of that. So we will see you guys tomorrow, and look forward to that.